Bernie Ecclestone once said that female F1 drivers would not be taken seriously and that they are not physically able to drive a car that fast. Here's why he's wrong. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be discussing women in motorsport, more specifically in F1. So yeah, let's just get straight into it, I guess. Formula 1 is one of the most diverse sports in the world. Flying from one country to the next, they have the most cutting edge technologies, and yet they lack one simple thing: female drivers. Let me just say one thing before we get into this video. I believe that it doesn't matter who you are, your background, gender, whatever, whoever the team principal is has the responsibility and should be hiring the best people that they can find. Simple as that. It does not matter like who that person ends up being or what they look like. Okay, that is the be all and end all. However, I believe that with the large amounts of pay drivers that have been coming into the sport, those seats could be taken by talented female drivers or like other drivers basically, and actual talent that deserves this seat. That's my opinion, right or wrong, but that's how I feel. But I just wanted to highlight some key female drivers whose careers we should all be watching as they look to make it into the premier class of racing. Before we get into that though, we're just going to get a little bit of a background on women in F1 and just a history of women in the sport. So women have been in Formula 1 before. That's no secret. Most of you would know that, I would assume, but some of you might not. To be fair, it's something that not everyone would even think about. They just think, oh, women never been in F1, but that is not true. Maria Teresa de Filippis, that's the name we should all remember. She was the first female F1 driver. She was an Italian racer from Naples. I've been there, it's lovely, the food is also pretty good. She raced in 5 races in the 1958 and 59 seasons in the Maserati 250F. She wasn't on the team though. She had to I don't know exactly how it works. I assume it's something like in Le Mans when they have a pay driver, essentially like a rich businessman who wants to do the Le Mans 24 hours. I assume it's something similar here. It was a privateer, so she bought a car or she rented a car from them. But she had Juan Manuel Fangio. That is quite a mouthful to say at speed, but he was her mentor. And yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Obviously, he's an incredibly successful Formula 1 driver in the 50s and maybe 60s. I don't really know too much about his career in Formula 1. But unfortunately for Maria, she scored no points. I mean, she only had 5 races to do so. It doesn't make it look good if you really think about it. But Lola or Leia, I don't know, because she's Italian, so that double L might be a Y. I don't know, but I'm just going to say Lola because I'm British in it. So Lola Lombardi is the second female F1 driver, and she is probably more noteworthy simply because she scored points, but she was also an Italian racing driver. She raced from 1974 to 1976. Again, racing as privateer. She raced in the Brabham. Her best result was at the Nordschleife, so that's no easy task, but she finished 7th. She accumulated 0.5 points in her career in F1. I mean, surely that's more than Jolie and Palmer, right? She is the only woman to have ever scored points in F1. I just think that's so backwards. That doesn't make sense. How can she be the only woman who scored points? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There have been a number of other female drivers in the sport who have raced in F1, actually raced. I will get onto someone else who was a test driver. But, I mean, that's quite shocking if you think about it, really. It's that's it. But she's the only woman to score points in F1, and that was in the 1970s. So it's a bit of a shame, really. But moving on to test drivers then in Formula 1. We've all heard of Toto Wolff. His wife, Susie Wolff, was a test driver for Williams. In 2014, she was the first woman to participate in a Formula 1 race weekend in 22 years. She participated in one practice session. Right, that's it. One. I don't really know what to say to that. But all hope is not lost, because there have been a wave of female drivers in recent years who are looking strong to reach F1, and hopefully they'll be successful. You can get Mazepin off the grids and put in Jamie Chadwick or some other drivers that I'm going to mention. But yeah, I mean, obviously I'm talking about F1. There are other successful female drivers who have done a lot in other sports, NASCAR, IndyCar, and there are obviously other women in other sports, but those are the ones that predominantly came up in my research in those sports. But there is an ever increasing list of female drivers that are looking to make it into the premier class of racing, and I just wanted to list 3 so that you can watch their careers as they grow. Number 1 is Maya Wang. I don't know how to say that name, but some of you might have heard about this. Ferrari announced that Maya will be joining their Ferrari Driver Academy, or FDA. So she is the first female driver in that program. She won. It was the FIA Girls on Track program that she won, and she got placed there. She was against some other highly competitive female drivers as well. I don't have their names written down, but I'll definitely just go back and do a bit of research on the FIA Girls on Track scheme, just to get an idea of the talent that like female F1, or not female F1 drivers, but female racing drivers are, because they're no different to men, obviously, but they're kind of overshadowed because there's so many more men in the sport than women, so it's hard to find like good talent. So just going over Maya's career so far, she started kart racing at the age of 7, with her debut at competition level in a regional competition in Spain, which came 2 years after first jumping in a kart. There wasn't much information on what championships she has entered, so if you know, just drop that in the comments. Most recently, she is known for winning the, as I've said earlier, FIA Girls on Track Rising Stars competition. This bagged her a seat in the Ferrari Driver Academy, yada yada yada. Pretty cool, fast, and definitely could make it into F2 with Ferrari's backing. She's racing in F4 currently. She's only 16 as well, so I mean, they've spotted that talent quite young. I mean, they did that with Leclerc, didn't they? And some of the other F2 drivers. But yeah, I mean, Ferrari are notoriously good at spotting talent. You've got Leclerc, you've got Perez, you've got Jules Bianchi, you've got all the F2 drivers right now, Ilott. Mick Schumacher's joining F1, Schwartzman as well, obviously. Ferrari are notoriously good at spotting talent, so I mean, that it gives us hope, right? It gives us hope. So in 4 years, or give or take, we could be seeing Maya in Formula 1. Number 2 is Jamie Chadwick. So I think that a number of you might have heard this name being thrown about, but may not be completely sure or familiar who she is. So she is a very fast driver, and when I say that, don't take those words for granted. She is fast, okay? And she won the W Series in its inaugural season in 2019. A little fun fact, one of my schoolmates' sisters was actually in the W Series, Esme Hawkey, and my mate, whose sister was in W Series, is currently racing in the Porsche Sprint Challenge in the UK, and he did very well last year. So shout out to Esme and Ethan Hawkey, because you guys are smashing it in racing right now. But anyway, back to Chadwick. Looking through her race career then, she started karting at the age of 11. She turned down a trial with the under-18 England hockey team to compete for a scholarship in Ginetta Juniors. So that's quite brave. I mean, you're being offered to go on to the Olympic, like England's hockey team for girls as well, which is like a very, like, that's a good sport. So that's quite interesting. But she turned that down and she won. She got the scholarship for the Ginetta Juniors. In 2015, she moved up to GT4 in the British GT Championship, racing in an Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Nice car, makes a nice noise as well. She moved to single-seaters in 2017, racing in Formula 3. And the following year, she was the first woman to win a British F3 race by claiming victory at the second race in Brands Hatch. Although that's like, oh, only one win, you must remember that this is spec series, so like the teams are, and the drivers obviously are incredibly competitive. The whole grid is competitive. That's what makes F2 so good as well, because it's equal cars apart from the setups, and that's why we see like Prima and Uni Virtuosi up there because they've got better engineers who understand cars better. Coming back to this, in 2018 and 19, she moved to the MRF Challenge and won. I had a look at it. It's something in India, I believe. I don't really know too much about it, but it looks like what Lando Norris used to race in, like the Formula 3s, where they had that like airbox on the side. And she also did a couple tests in a Formula E car as well in 2018/19. Adding to that, in 2019, again, she raced in the F3 Asian Championship, and she, as I said earlier, won W Series that year. So she's got a lot going on. Currently, she is a Williams Driver Academy driver, and she is announced as racing in the Veloce Racing Extreme E team. That's obviously this new E, like off-road, like motorsport. And basically, you've got to have a male and a female driver. Obviously Veloce, if you part of the F1 community, which if you're watching this, I assume you are, then you'll know that Veloce Esports is the esports and online social media division of the Veloce Racing team and company. So yeah, it's a pretty good gig. You're racing against the likes of Sebastian Loeb, and we all know who he is, or I should hope so. Maybe I should do a video on him actually. But yeah, pretty cool. Could she make it into F1? Well, I hope so. She is insanely fast, but there are a huge number of F2 drivers looking to like jump in, and academy drivers as well. So those are like being favoured. There's lots of them ready and waiting to leap into an F1 car, and you've got to go for the best talent. As I said earlier, it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, whatever. You've got to be the best talent. Jamie Chadwick, in my opinion, is the best female driver right now. Definitely a single seaters. We're going to get into another one right now who's a little bit higher up, I guess you could say. So yeah, let's just get straight into her actually. Number 3, Sofia Flush. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can someone who crashes like that be good enough for Formula 1? Well, she's quick. What can I say? That was a freak accident, and she definitely like paid the price for that. She was in hospital for a good while. Speaking of people who weren't in hospital but recovered, Juan Manuel Correa, I don't know if I said that right, but the person who crashed with Antoine Hubert, he's going to be in Formula 3, Formula 2, I can't remember, I'm pretty sure it's Formula 3, but that's impressive. Obviously made a recovery while, I think he said he had like over 10 operations, but that's impressive. Yeah, so back to Sofia Flush then. She's currently racing in F3 and doing okay. Remember that it's, as I said earlier with Formula 3 for Chadwick, it's a highly competitive series. Just because she wasn't in the top 5 doesn't mean that she's bad. So yeah, she came 9th in the LMP2 class at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That is definitely saying something. So, those, in my opinion, are the 3 female drivers that you should be looking out for over the next few years. Just check in every now and then, just give them a little search on Google, see how they're doing, see if they've moved up at all. Maya will definitely be being watched now that she's in the Ferrari Academy, so I think it'd be easy to eye her career. But make sure you watch out for Jamie Chadwick, because she's really good. So yeah, just keep your eyes open for that. But that's all, folks. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye bye. Love you all. My camera died, so I apologise about all this. Blah 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 blah.